Inventors spent $20 million building a rocket-powered car that went 630 miles before exploding into flames, killing the driver on live television. Engineers created a flying car in 1956 that actually flew but crashed so often the FAA banned it from production. Someone built a nuclear-powered airplane that worked perfectly except for the minor problem of irradiating everyone within a quarter-mile radius. What you are about to hear are 47 actual transportation inventions that engineers designed, built, tested, and sometimes even sold to the public before discovering catastrophic flaws that made walking seem like a superior option. And number 23 will make you question whether engineers understand what the word safety means. If you have ever wondered why we don't have jetpacks yet, hit subscribe because this is why innovation sometimes needs to stay in the garage. Drop a comment with the dumbest vehicle idea you've ever seen. We are documenting humanity's ongoing war with basic physics. Number 47. The Segway was supposed to revolutionize urban transportation when it launched in 2001 with $100 million in development costs. Inventor Dean Kamen claimed cities would be rebuilt around Segways within a decade. Major investors, including Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, predicted it would be bigger than the internet. Then people saw it was an electric scooter that cost $5,000 and went 12 millimeters. Sales projections estimated 50,000 units in the first year, but they sold 6,000. The owner of the Segway company later died riding a Segway off a cliff. America spent $100 million on a scooter that killed its own CEO. Number 46. Engineers built the Convair NB-36H nuclear-powered airplane in 1955 that actually flew 47 test flights with an active nuclear reactor on board. The plane worked perfectly, except the reactor shielding weighed 12 tons and still irradiated the crew with dangerous radiation levels. Anyone within a quarter mile of the plane during operation received unsafe radiation exposure. When the plane crashed during testing, officials realized a nuclear airplane crash would create a flying Chernobyl. America built a plane that gave everyone cancer and called it Progress. Number 45. The Amphicar was a car-boat hybrid sold from 1961 to 1968 that was terrible at being both a car and a boat. On land, it went 70 mph. On water, it reached 7 mph, slower than most people swim. The engine overheated constantly. Water leaked into the passenger compartment. It cost twice as much as a regular car. They sold 3,178 units to people who wanted a vehicle that failed at two types of transportation simultaneously. Buyers paid premium prices for a car that sank and a boat that couldn't boat. Number 44. Inventors created the Helicron in 1932, a car powered by a giant airplane propeller mounted on the front. The propeller spun at 1,200 RPM directly in front of the driver's face. When the car moved, the propeller created a 120 mph wind that made steering impossible. It also decapitated anyone who stood too close. Only one was ever built, and the driver refused to drive it above 10 mph. France invented a car with a giant rotating blade aimed at the driver and wondered why it failed. Number 43. The rocket belt jetpack developed by Bell Aerosystems in 1960 actually worked and could fly for 21 seconds before running out of fuel. The Army spent $150,000 developing it for combat use. 21 seconds of flight time meant soldiers could travel 300 feet before falling out of the sky. The fuel was highly explosive hydrogen peroxide that killed anyone who inhaled the exhaust. The military abandoned it because 21-second flights weren't tactically useful and the jetpack kept catching fire. America created a working jetpack that flew for less time than a TV commercial. Number 42. Engineers built the Schienen Zeppelin in Germany in 1931, a train with an airplane propeller on the back that reached 140 mph on its first test run. The propeller was so loud people a mile away couldn't have conversations. It couldn't pull freight cars because the propeller would blow them off the tracks. It couldn't go in reverse. When officials tried to brake at high speed, the propeller kept spinning and the train couldn't stop. They scrapped it after 1 year. Germany attached a propeller to a train and discovered trains need brakes more than speed. Number 41. The Benny Railplane of 1930 was a train that hung from a monorail track powered by a propeller with the cars suspended underneath like an upside-down airplane. It reached 60 mph during testing until the propeller broke. The car swung wildly and nearly killed everyone inside. Investors pulled funding immediately. Britain built one prototype that almost murdered its passengers, then never built another. They invented a train that was also a pendulum of death. Number 40. Inventors created the hovercraft SRN-4 in 1968 that could carry 418 passengers and 60 cars across the English Channel at 75 mph. The hovercraft worked perfectly, except it used 150 gallons of fuel per hour, broke down constantly, couldn't operate in waves over 4 feet, and the noise was so loud passengers couldn't hear emergency announcements. They discontinued service in 2000 after ferries proved more reliable. Britain operated hovercrafts for 32 years before admitting boats were better. Number 39. The cycle car was a three-wheeled vehicle popular in the 1920s that combined the worst aspects of motorcycles and cars. They had no weather protection, tipped over on turns, and provided zero crash protection. Over 100 companies built cycle cars, and nearly all went bankrupt within 5 years. The vehicles were so dangerous that insurance companies refused to cover them. America briefly mass-produced tricycles for adults, then remembered why adults don't ride tricycles. Number 38. Engineers built the Dymaxion Car in 1933, a three-wheeled vehicle that looked like a blimp with wheels. Designer Buckminster Fuller claimed it would revolutionize transportation by fitting 11 passengers while getting 30 mph. The rear steering made it impossible to control above 50 mph. During a demonstration at the 1933 World's Fair, the Dymaxion crashed, killing the driver and injuring the passengers. Only 3 were ever built. America created a blimp car that killed its own test driver at a public expo. Number 37. The Amphibian was a flying car certified by the FAA in 1950 that actually worked. Wings attached to a regular car, the car drove to an airport, wings went on, and it flew. The problem was attaching wings took 30 minutes, required multiple people, and the car still needed a runway. Only 6 were built because buyers realized owning a plane and a car separately was easier than owning one vehicle that was mediocre at both. America certified a flying car that nobody wanted because it was more inconvenient than 2 vehicles. Number 36. Inventors created the propeller-driven sled in 1924 for winter mail delivery in Minnesota. The sled worked great except the propeller couldn't push through deep snow, frequently broke when hitting hidden obstacles, and was so loud it scared all the horses in town, causing chaos. After one winter of testing, the Postal Service went back to dog sleds. America added a propeller to a sled and discovered dogs were more reliable than engineering. Number 35. The Layat Helica was a French car from 1919, powered by a front-mounted propeller like an airplane. The propeller spun 18 inches from the driver's face at 1,500 RPM. When the car hit bumps, the propeller bounced closer to the driver's head. Starting the car required hand cranking the propeller, which frequently resulted in broken fingers. 30 were built before production stopped because everyone realized propellers and faces shouldn't occupy the same space. France mass-produced a car that threatened to decapitate its own driver. Number 34. Engineers developed the Goliath tracked mine during World War II, a remote-controlled bomb on tank treads. The operator steered it toward enemy positions where it would explode. The problem was, the control cable could only reach 650 yards and frequently got tangled or cut. Allied soldiers learned to shoot the cable or run faster than the 8 mph maximum speed. Of the 7,564 Goliaths deployed, most were destroyed before reaching targets. Germany spent millions on remote-controlled bombs that soldiers could outrun on foot. Number 33. The Henny Kilowatt was an electric car sold from 1959 to 1960 that went 40 mph with a 60-mile range. It cost $3,600, more than a Cadillac. The batteries weighed 1,000 pounds and took 10 hours to charge. Sales projections estimated 100,000 units, but they sold 47 total. America built an electric car in 1959 that cost more than luxury vehicles to go slower than bicycles. The Kilowatt failed so badly, it set electric car development back 40 years. Number 32. Inventors created the Custer Channel Wing aircraft in the 1940s, a plane with curved wings that wrapped around propellers allowing vertical takeoff. The design worked and the plane could take off in 70 feet. The problem was landing also required 70 feet, and hitting the ground at that angle with that design crushed the landing gear. After multiple crashes, the FAA refused certification. America invented a plane that could take off vertically, but landing vertically destroyed the plane. Number 31. The Reliant Robin was a three-wheeled British car sold from 1973 to 2002 that tipped over if you turned too sharply. The single front wheel and two rear wheels created instability that made the car flip during normal driving. Insurance data showed Robins rolled over more than any other vehicle. Top Gear demonstrated this by flipping one repeatedly during a 5-minute drive. Britain sold a car for 29 years that was designed to roll over and called it affordable transportation. Number 30. But here is where it gets genuinely unhinged. The Chrysler turbine car of 1963 was powered by a jet engine that could run on any liquid fuel including tequila, perfume, and vegetable oil. Chrysler built 55 prototypes and gave them to regular families for testing. The turbine worked perfectly, except it emitted exhaust temperatures hot enough to melt asphalt, produced a high-pitched scream that violated noise ordinances in most cities, got 12 miles per gallon, and cost $50,000 per vehicle to manufacture. Families loved them, despite the car literally melting parking lots. When the test program ended, Chrysler destroyed 46 of the 55 cars to avoid import taxes. America built a street-legal jet car that worked flawlessly except for melting roads, deafening neighborhoods, and bankrupting anyone who tried to manufacture it. The truly remarkable part is normal suburban families test drove these for months and wanted to keep them despite the cars being unusable in normal society. Number 29. The Curtiss autoplane of 1917 was the first flying car attempt that had car wheels, removable wings, and a propeller. It never actually flew. During ground tests, it achieved short hops of a few feet before crashing. The wings were too small, the engine too weak, and the whole thing too heavy. The inventor spent 3 years and $35,000 trying to make it work before giving up. America's first flying car couldn't fly and barely functioned as a car. Number 28. Engineers created the tracked hovercraft in 1969 that combined a hovercraft with tank treads for amphibious assault. The treads prevented the hovercraft from hovering and the hovering made the treads useless. It couldn't go on land because the air cushion lifted the treads, and it couldn't go on water because the treads weighed too much. Only one was built. Britain combined two working transportation systems and created something that worked as neither. Number 27. The Chrysler VIP of 1969 was a luxury car with a vinyl roof that Chrysler marketed as formal styling. The vinyl trapped moisture, causing the roof to rust completely through within 3 years. Over 90% of VIPs developed roof rust before 1975. Chrysler sold a luxury car with a roof that dissolved and couldn't figure out why customers were upset. America's luxury vehicle came with planned obsolescence built into the roof. Number 26. Inventors developed railroads with square wheels in the 1860s, believing corners would provide better traction. The wheels worked but destroyed the tracks and created a ride so violent passengers vomited constantly. Every railroad that tried square wheels returned to round wheels within months. Multiple countries independently tested square wheels and independently discovered circles were superior. Humanity briefly forgot that wheels should be round. Number 25. The Talgo gauge-changing train wheels, invented in Spain, can shift between different track widths while the train is moving at full speed. The system works perfectly and has been used successfully since 1968. This is actually a brilliant invention that succeeded completely. Spain solved a century-old railroad problem, and nobody copied it because changing existing infrastructure was too expensive. Europe invented the perfect solution to an engineering problem, then collectively decided not to use it because budgets. Number 24. The Peel P50 from 1962 is the world's smallest production car, measuring 54 inches long and weighing 130 pounds. It has 3 wheels, 1 door, no reverse gear, and a 49cc engine producing 4.2 horsepower. Top speed is 38 mph. To reverse, drivers must get out and push. They sold 47 units. Britain built a car so small that parking it required manual labor and called it practical urban transportation. Number 23. The Muller Sky Car has been in development since 1962 with over $100 million spent and 0 production models sold. Inventor Paul Muller has promised flying cars would be available within months, continuously since 1985. The Sky Car has completed multiple hover tests but has never achieved free flight. The SEC charged Muller with fraud in 2003 for selling stock in a company with no actual product. Muller is still claiming production is imminent. One man has spent 60 years and $100 million not building a flying car. Number 22. The Daihatsu B was a 3-wheeled motorcycle with a roof sold in Japan in 1951. The roof made it top-heavy, causing it to tip over during turns. The enclosed design prevented riders from putting feet down to catch falls. It crashed so frequently that Daihatsu discontinued it after 6 months. Japan built a motorcycle that prevented riders from using their feet, then wondered why it kept falling over. Number 21. Engineers created the rotatable aircraft Waterman Aerobile in 1937, a plane with wings that folded, allowing it to drive on roads. It actually flew and actually drove. 6 were built and certified by the CAA. The problem was pilots discovered that planes designed to drive handled poorly in the air and cars designed to fly handled poorly on roads. Owners eventually crashed all 6. America certified a flying car that worked until physics killed everyone who owned one. Number 20. The Sinclair C5 was an electric tricycle sold in Britain in 1985 for $399. It had a top speed of 15 mph, a 20-mile range, and positioned the rider so low that truck drivers couldn't see them. The battery died in cold weather. It offered 0 weather protection. They projected 100,000 sales in the first year, but sold 5,000 total before bankruptcy. Britain sold an electric tricycle that positioned riders at bumper height in traffic and acted shocked when people didn't want to die. Number 19. The Lockheed L-133 was a jet-powered fighter aircraft designed in 1939, 2 years before the first jet fighter actually flew. Lockheed had solved jet propulsion before anyone else. The Army rejected it because generals didn't believe jet engines were real and insisted on propellers. When jets proved viable in 1941, the design was obsolete. America had working jet technology in 1939 and rejected it because military officials didn't believe in physics. Number 18. The Chrysler Airflow of 1934 was the first mass-produced car designed using wind tunnels for aerodynamics. It got better fuel economy, handled better, and was safer than competitors. Buyers hated it because it looked different from traditional cars. Chrysler sold 30,000 in 1934, and sales dropped 50% annually until discontinuation in 1937. America invented aerodynamic cars, then rejected them for being too aerodynamic. Number 17. Engineers built the Railton Mobile Special in 1947 to break the land speed record. It was rocket-powered and reached 394 mph on the first run. On the second run, driver John Cobb pushed for 400 mph. The car went airborne, crashed, and exploded, killing him. Film footage shows the car going 370 mph before literally taking flight. Britain built a rocket car so fast it became a plane, then crashed. Number 16. The Ford Nucleon was a concept car from 1958 designed to be powered by a small nuclear reactor in the trunk. Ford estimated the reactor would need replacement every 5,000 miles. They never built a working prototype because engineers realized putting nuclear reactors in car trunks meant every fender bender became a radiation incident. Ford designed a nuclear car, then discovered radiation was dangerous. Number 15. Inventors created the propeller bike in 2008, a bicycle with a propeller mounted on the back that could reach 30 mph. The propeller spun 18 inches behind the rider's head. Hitting brakes while the propeller was running caused the bike to fishtail violently. The propeller was loud enough to violate noise ordinances. Only a few were built before inventors realized bicycles with propellers combined the danger of motorcycles with the instability of bicycles. Someone attached a propeller to a bicycle, then discovered this made bicycles worse. Number 14. The Westland Dreadnought was a giant flying boat designed in 1916 to carry 1,000 passengers across the Atlantic. It would be powered by 12 engines. The design was sound, except it required technology that wouldn't exist for 20 years. The wood frame would have weighed 40 tons. Britain designed a passenger aircraft for technology that didn't exist using materials that couldn't support the weight. Number 13. Engineers developed the Rocket Racing League in 2005 with plans for rocket-powered aircraft racing at 320 miles in front of live audiences. They raised $30 million, built several rocket planes, and held exhibition flights. The league collapsed in 2010 because ensuring rocket plane races was impossible, and tracks hosting vehicles that could explode mid-flight faced liability. America created rocket plane racing, then discovered insurance companies object to rocket explosions. Number 12. The Studebaker-Packard Scotsman of 1957 was marketed as a budget car achieved by removing all options including passenger sun visors, armrests, cigarette lighters, and chrome trim. Buyers could pay extra to add back features that came standard on every other car. Sales were so poor, Studebaker discontinued it after 1 year. America sold a car by removing everything, then acted confused when nobody wanted an expensive downgrade. Number 11. Inventors created the aerodrome in 1903, a steam-powered aircraft built by Samuel Langley with $50,000 in government funding. On the first launch attempt, the aerodrome immediately nosedived into the Potomac River. The second attempt crashed identically. 9 days later, the Wright brothers flew successfully using a design that cost $1,000. The government spent 50 times more money on a plane that crashed twice than the working plane cost to build. Number 10. The Hiller VZ-1 Pawnee was a one-person flying platform developed for the Army in 1955. The soldier stood on a platform with 2 counter-rotating fans underneath. It worked and could fly for 33 minutes at 16 mph. The Army abandoned it because soldiers standing on flying fans were easy targets, and the platform couldn't carry weapons. America invented a flying platform that worked but made soldiers into target practice. Number 9. The Soviet Ekranoplan was a ground-effect vehicle that flew 10 feet above the water at 400 miles. They built several, including one that weighed 550 tons, the heaviest aircraft ever. The problem was ground effect only works over flat surfaces, so they could only fly over oceans. They couldn't fly over land or during rough seas. Russia built planes that only worked over calm water and called it naval aviation. Number 8. The Thurston's dirigible of 1860 was a steam-powered airship that relied on flapping wings for propulsion like a bird. The wings weighed so much the steam engine couldn't lift them. The design never flew, but the inventor kept modifying it for 20 years. Britain spent 2 decades designing an airship with flapping wings before discovering steam engines cannot power bird flight. Number 7. Engineers created the Schuckert Egg in 1907, an aircraft shaped like an egg with wings. The pilot sat inside the egg, which was supposed to roll for takeoff. The egg was too heavy to lift, too unstable to fly, and rolling for takeoff made the pilot dizzy. Only one was built and it never flew. Germany built an egg-shaped aircraft and discovered eggs are not aerodynamic. Number 6. The Curtiss-Wright VZ-7 was a flying jeep developed for the Army in 1958 with 4 ducted fans allowing vertical takeoff. It worked and could carry 4 soldiers. The problem was the fans were so loud soldiers couldn't communicate, and the downdraft blew away everything on the ground, including soldiers trying to board. The Army bought 9, then never used them. America invented a flying jeep that worked but was too loud to use. Number 5. Inventors created the Flying Auto in 1926, a car with a detachable biplane wing and propeller. To fly, drivers attached the wing, drove to a field, and took off. The problem was the wing attachment took 3 hours and required multiple people. After one flight, the inventor crashed and abandoned the project. America's first flying car worked, but preparing it for flight took longer than driving. Number 4. The Avro Canada VZ-9 Avro car was a disc-shaped vertical takeoff aircraft developed for the US military in 1959. It looked like a UFO and was supposed to fly 300 miles per hour. During testing, it couldn't fly higher than 3 feet or faster than 35 miles per hour before becoming uncontrollable. The military spent $10 million and 6 years building a UFO that hovered 3 feet off the ground. Canada built a flying saucer for America that couldn't fly. Number 3. The Bloemen Voss BV-141 was a German reconnaissance aircraft from 1938 with the cockpit on one side and the engine on the other, creating an asymmetrical airplane. The design worked and 28 were built. Pilots reported it flew fine but looked so wrong that mechanics refused to believe it would fly. Germany built a working airplane so ugly people thought it was broken. Number 2. The Convair XFY Pogo was a fighter jet from 1954 that took off vertically by standing on its tail, then tilted forward for horizontal flight. Pilots had to land it backward, flying in reverse while looking over their shoulder. After multiple test pilots crashed during landing, the program was canceled. America built a fighter jet that worked perfectly, except pilots had to land it like backing into a parking space at 100 knots. Number 1. The Chrysler TV-8 was a nuclear-powered tank developed in the 1950s that could theoretically run for years without refueling. The 50-ton tank would be powered by a 300-watt nuclear reactor that sat directly underneath the crew compartment. Engineers calculated the shielding required to protect the crew from radiation would weigh 200 tons, 4 times the tank's weight. Adding enough shielding made the tank too heavy to move. The project was abandoned after spending millions on blueprints. America designed a nuclear tank, then discovered that protecting crews from radiation made the tank heavier than physics allowed it to move. The military wanted unlimited range and accidentally designed an immobile radioactive fortress that would kill its own crew. This wasn't a failure of engineering. This was engineering succeeding too well at making something nobody should have built in the first place. So there you have it. 47 transportation inventions that engineers designed, tested, and sometimes even sold before discovering that propellers aimed at faces, nuclear reactors in car trunks, and rocket-powered sleds are all terrible ideas that physics enthusiastically rejects. We witnessed flying cars that crashed, jet cars that melted roads, and nuclear airplanes that irradiated pilots. Someone built a car shaped like an egg. Another person spent 60 years and $100 million not building a flying car. Engineers repeatedly attached propellers to things that should not have propellers, then acted shocked when decapitation became a concern. These weren't theoretical designs drawn on napkins. These were actual working vehicles that companies manufactured, governments funded, and occasionally people died testing. The truly remarkable part is not that these failed. The truly remarkable part is engineers kept building variations of the same doomed concepts for decades, hoping physics would eventually change its mind. You are absolutely smarter for watching this, which means you have earned that like button, and subscribing ensures you will never invest in a nuclear-powered skateboard or jet-propelled bicycle. Comment with the dumbest vehicle idea you can imagine. We are documenting proof that if you can think it, someone probably already built it and crashed it. And if you think this is as absurd as transportation engineering gets, trust us, it only gets more ridiculous from here.